Hello and welcome back to SpriteGuard Plays HyperRogue. We are right next to a blizzard, and Zeno let me know that the blizzard was not actually working correctly the last time we were there. And so I want to check it out. So here we are at the entrance, and I'm seeing that the wind is blowing away from the entrance. So once we step in, or once we go in a couple of steps, we can't actually go back out of it. So that's one cool thing. And I'm seeing that there's some kind of whirlwind stuff going on here. So, I'm not quite visually interpreting it completely clearly just yet, but it looks like there's these clustered whirlwinds that we have to go around, and here is an ice golem, but it's being blown away from us, so we can probably avoid it pretty well. Now the birds, because we are being forced to move with the wind, the birds should be able to keep up with us. They shouldn't have a problem with that. Now, of course, now that I've come in here, we don't really have any way out, and I believe we already have all of the treasure that we need from here. And so I'm not really sure what I want to do here. Gotta pay attention to which way the wind blows. Let's see if all right, it looks like they're keeping up with us all right. So that's all right. Let's see, we have a volcanic wasteland and an icy land here. It looks like we cannot get to the icy land. And it looks like we might not be able to get to the volcanic wasteland either. And unfortunately, that salamander is able to reach us. So unless we can come up with something kind of clever to beat it, I'm not really seeing. Let's see, we have a void beast here. So if we go downwind from the void beast, let's see, which appears to be over this way, then we should be able to get away from it. But it looks like we're heading towards another one, and it looks like we're getting blown away from that desert as well. But you can just fight these guys just normally. It's just, I think, interesting to try to escape them. Now we have an orb of safety here, so there's a windy plains, which again we can't quite get to. And so I'm a little bit unsure, what kinds of conditions do we need in order to get into one of these lands? Because I am seeing places where the wind is blowing in toward one of these entrances. So it must be possible, at the very least. But I think that this is another one of the puzzles in this game that is just going to take a bit more thought than what I was prepared for. But this game has a pretty good track record of throwing me into situations where I'm not really prepared for them. Let's see, so we can go here, but then we can't actually go toward the exit. Now let's see, I see some wind blowing down this way toward this crossroads. There's a couple of orbs of safety. Now we can't get in this way, right up here. So I want to see, like, if we go over this way, I can look at where the dots are. It looks like... Yeah, it looks like we can actually get to that exit. We just have to be a little careful about which way we go. And there we are, back into the crossroads. So that was quite an adventure, and I really enjoyed that. So that's pretty cool. So let's see what else we can find. I don't really have an agenda for today. That was the main thing that I wanted to check out. We do have some orbs to play around with, and we have the Terracotta Warriors still to finish off their land. So the Orb of Phasing, that's the one that we got from the Jelly Kingdom that we were playing around with a little bit. Let's see, I'm wondering... So, oh, I did it again. Every single time. So yeah, we are now, I believe, in... not quite. So, we crossed a wall that was, like, otherwise uncrossable, but you can actually, if you go through this land, you can get between these two crossroads. I remember, I think when the Crossroads 3 was first introduced, there were Great Walls that were completely uninterrupted, but I think that those were patched out. Now, hell, just by going past hell, it's causing some frame rate stutter. So, I don't think we're going to be getting an Orb of Yendor on this show for a little while. I'm not sure why it has kind of slowed down. I don't know if it's like my computer is just kind of getting old and creaky, or if the game is just getting more demanding as it becomes more complicated. I think either of those is entirely plausible. So these guys have 7 hit points, which is... oh dear. Quite a lot. And apparently they don't stun, which is something that hadn't occurred to me. Now, oh, okay, so that time he's stunned. Now he's stunning. I see, so they don't stun on the first hit, but they stun more once you have hit them a couple of times. There we go. I see how that works now. So we can grab treasures a little bit more confidently now. So, yeah, so the episode that I did where I first saw this land, I actually ended up, or when I first saw this update that had this land in it, I went through and I read off all of the land descriptions, and then realized that that was kind of doing things not in the order, and so that's why there was that episode with that big spoilers redacted, because I was planning on visiting all of this stuff in the very near future, and then I ended up having to take that break. But in one of the cut portions of that episode, I talked about actually getting to see the Terracotta Army in person, which was really amazing. So we now have enough of the weapons that we should start to see orbs spawning. That's an orb of safety, but we can jump into it and see some new territory, and you know, maybe some orbs will spawn. Another orb of safety, interesting. I don't know what the orb of this land is, but it's interesting to me that we're only seeing orbs of safety and not seeing the native orb. I remember Zeno saying a long time ago when the foreign orbs were first introduced that native orbs should always be more common than guest orbs. However, we haven't seen one. And I'm kind of want to duck out here and see if we can find a crossroads, because sometimes the crossroads can be a little bit easier to just run around and try to find orbs. And there's one right there. Going into the hive is sometimes not the greatest way to find a crossroads because the land spawn rate is very low. That was actually something that Vipul pointed out to me while I was doing some HyperRogue speedruns. And Vipul was is a very talented HyperRogue speedrunner who gave me a lot of really helpful tips while I was trying to put together a good run, and that ended up, you know, I was really excited about how that was going, and I just... Things in life intervened is how I always like to say it. I lost my job, and because I was trying to get the speedruns consistent enough to go to Games Done Quick, which was a very long shot, but something that I really wanted to try. And I was giving it a good shot, and then I lost my job, and I got really depressed and kind of didn't do as much stuff, and that kind of all fell by the wayside. Let's see, what do we have? Orb of Slaying. That's the orb from the Ruined City. Orb of Winter is from the Blizzard. So now we are actually quite kitted out with orbs. More than we really have much use for. I wonder... I don't think handsome gardeners spawn if you don't have treasure. Because I was thinking we could like poke our heads in there and see if the Orb of Slaying worked. It probably doesn't work on handsome gardeners. But that's something that I might want to try at some point in the future. But not now. I don't want to go into the Rose Garden. It's an area that tends to get me killed. And I really do want to see the new orb that we have. And I really have no idea what it is. I might have read it off at one point, but that memory is gone, and I do not even know what orb we're looking for. I'm guessing that it's probably to do with weapons. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I really don't know. It's like, I can make very vague guesses, but I really don't have much to go on. The orbs in this game are always thematically appropriate, but often in surprising ways. You know, it actually took me a while to figure out why the Orb of the Frog was the orb for the palace. I think it's not anymore. I'm not sure. But it still shows up in the palace. And the reason is because the palace is based on Prince of Persia. And Prince of Persia is a platformer. And so, you know, jumping is very much something that you do a lot in that game. And so being able to jump in the area based on the Prince of Persia is a pretty good ability to have. And you have the palace, you have the princess that's locked within the palace, and then you also have the pressure plates and the doors, which was a big part of Prince of Persia. So we have not found the orb, and I kind of want to take a look at the overview and see if I'm like massively missing something, because it's a little bit odd to me that we have not seen the Orb of Slashing. Okay, so that is ringing a bell now. Whenever you attack with this orb, you also hit the monsters adjacent to both to you and the monster you originally attacked. Okay. So that's something for us to look for. I don't know actually how long we've been going, but my instinct is saying to wrap it up here. We did some good stuff. We had a little bit of exploration, and it is past my bedtime, so thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.